Okay. Boys and girls, if anybody's watching this, we are done with our phonogram review, but about to start spelling word review. Let's erase our whiteboards and get ready for some spelling review. Our first word for practice today is acquaintance. We're going to think to spell acquaintance. Acquaintance. Should look like this. There's our markings. Next up is eliminate. 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 Marcus, we can't just put our head down. This is time for us to be writing. This is just as important as when we do new words. Eliminate. Next is endeavor. Please write endeavor. Endeavor. Show it to me when you're done, please. Next up is enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. Mike has an enthusiasm for Disney World.
I actually have enthusiasm for a lot of things. The top three are Disney, ramen, and food.
Disney, ramen, and food. That's a good list.
Other food.
So ramen is separate from food?
Look at this glorious, some steam coming out of it. The glorious tasting broth. The chicken flavored noodles.
Oh, it must be very fresh on your mind. Are you having that for breakfast? Some
I like
ramen?
the beef one. I like the beef one.
I'm having it for my second breakfast.
Second breakfast?
Wait, no, actually, I think number 3 should be
Star Wars?
Oxygen.
Oh, oxygen is a good one to have enthusiasm for.
Something like that.
Enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. Next up, physical. Physical. We think to spell physical. Physical. Aryanshi left the meeting when we did enthusiasm, so let me show you the correct spelling for that one. Here it is. Enthusiasm looks like this. Asm. Here's physical. And the last one to do is physician. 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 Should look like this. And that's our last word to review. As soon as you're done with that, give yourself a pat on the scapula for a job well done with our review today. Pat that scapula. Right there. And let's erase our board and get ready for a new spelling lesson today. Our spelling lesson today has a very special word. Do you know why it's special? Because our first word for today has more than, oh, it's not Disney. Good guess, though. There is more than one way to correctly write this word, which means for the quiz and test, when you write this word, you can choose the way that you'd prefer to write it. There are 2 ways to write it. Kind of unusual, isn't that? So I'll teach it to you one way, but then you can also do another one. Cleverness is a good guess, but not cleverness, Dikshita. Okay. The word is judgment. Would you all say judgment? Oh, maybe there's some judgment when the court, the jury at the court voted that the person was guilty. Judgment. Or maybe you feel judgment from your friends if you still play with My Little Ponies. Judgment. Okay, so the word is judgment. Let's sound it out together. Judgment. 2 syllables. First syllable is judge. Sound it out with me. J, j. 3 sounds. Now the first j sound is the single letter phonogram j. But the second one is j, 3-letter j. Used only after a single vowel, which says a, like in fudge. Now, what the difference is that some people drop the E and some people don't. And you can do it either way. We're just going to keep that E on the base word because that goes along with the way we normally do our spelling rules. But if you don't have that E, it's okay. Because there are a lot of people who write it without that E in the first syllable. That's one of the ways it's written in the dictionary. So the dictionary has it both ways. So next syllable, judgment. M-A-N-T. 4 sounds is basic code. Judgment. Pick up your pencil, please, and write judgment. And I'll write it both ways so that you can see it either way. Okay, judgment. J, j. Syllable break. T. Judgment. Now, next to it, I'm going to write the other way we could spell this. J, j. Drop the silent finally, syllable break. T. Either one is correct. This is a little bit more common actually in America. This is a little more common in England. This one goes better with our spelling rules though, so this is the way that I'm going to mainly focus on writing the word, okay? But if you write it this way on a quiz or test, you would not be counted wrong. You can write it either way. Okay, first judgment for our markings. We're going to underline j, three-letter j, used only after a single vowel, which says a. And second syllable is basic code. This is a noun. This is a noun. You can write it both ways for practice if you'd like. To mark this one, by the way, I would do this. Double underline the d and two on top of the g, j. But this one doesn't make much sense according to our spelling rules because we know g, j says its second sound when followed by e, I, or y. So this one just doesn't make as much sense, even though it's more common. Tig?
The only person in the well, and it's not exactly a person, but the only thing that I know who uses the more British spelling besides our family is captions.
Oh, really? In captions, you see this one more?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, so I would say it would be probably fun to keep your eyes open, try to think through, what do you see more often in books that you read and in captions of a TV show? When you see the word judgment, try to figure out which one you see more often. Do you see it this way or this way? Once again, we're going to mainly focus on the first one because it more accurately goes with our spelling rules. Okay, our next word is, didn't even mean to do this, but accurate. Accurate is a word to say like, oh, that's the right answer. It's correct. Your answer is accurate. Or maybe you could say somebody's basketball shot was accurate because it made it in. Accurate. We think to spell this word as accurate. Can you say that with me? Accurate. Good. Sound it out with me. A-k, two sounds in the first syllable, basic code. Next syllable is k-u, two sounds. U is in an open syllable saying its name. That's a double C, by the way. Accurate. Next syllable, a-t, three sounds. A says its name because of a silent final E, job one. Okay, accurate is basically the breakdown. Accurate. Pick up your pencil and write it. Accurate, we think to spell accurate. Great work, Alina, on your markings too. Great job, Tig and Alexander. Okay. Here's our word. Ak, syllable break. You, syllable break. A, t, silent final E. Accurate. Harika, there's two of you, so I'm going to remove one. Ariane, would you like to mark the word for us?
Yes. So in the first syllable, it's basic code. In the second syllable,
Actually, the one thing we're going to do here is that the first one is silent of the C's.
Okay, and then you thinking cap the U and underline it.
Perfect. Oh, accurate. Actually, let me check the manual to see what they do with that U. We will definitely underline it, like you said, because it is an open syllable. Let's see. Yeah, they also say thinking cap. You're right, because it kind of changes to accurate. Good job. What else?
And then you thinking cap the A in the third syllable and underline it.
Good.
You underline the you double underline the silent final E, job number 1.
Perfect. Can you think of what part of speech it is? I'll give you an example. She made an accurate decision. What kind of decision? Accurate.
I think that's an adjective.
Good, you got it. Okay, now we're going to use that as the base of the next word. And to turn it into a noun, we are going to drop the TE and change it to accuracy. Oh, did you know it, Tig? Sorry. Can you give us a word with accuracy? I mean, a sentence?
Yeah. I eat my ramen aiming my spoon with perfect accuracy.
Love it. That's a perfect use of that word. With perfect accuracy, he aims that spoon in his mouth. So for that word, we're going to keep the two first syllables the same. And then for the next syllable, it's accurate. And last syllable is going to be e, using k for that sound. Please pick up your pencil and write accuracy. Accuracy. But we think to spell accuracy. Hold it up when you're done, please. Okay. Accuracy. Ac, syllable break. U, syllable break. A, syllable break. E. Accuracy. We think to spell accuracy. Could I have Harika mark it for us?
You double underline the first C.
Very good.
Put a thinking cap on the U.
And underline. Very good.
Yeah. Mm,
Sound it out, Harika.
wait.
Accuracy. Can you say that with me? Accuracy. So what do we do to the third syllable?
Underline the A and thinking cap.
Good.
And in the last syllable, you put a 3 on top of the Y.
Great. And 2 on top of the Ks. Now it's a noun. Check that your markings match mine, please. And it's time for our last word. Our last word today is counterfeit. Can you all say counterfeit? Who's heard of this before? Tig?
Isn't it like someone not paying for something?
It can have to do with that. Counterfeit means fake.
I knew
And
it.
if somebody is not paying for something with real money, they might be using counterfeit money, which means it's fake.
We have a whole bunch. We have a whole box of counterfeit stuff up in the playroom. Plastic food.
Oh, yeah. Maybe your younger sisters play with counterfeit food. Does it make you angry that it's counterfeit food?
Especially since the pack that we bought in came with like 5 donuts. I'm so mad.
Oh, counterfeit donuts make me angry too. Counterfeit just means fake. Now we think to spell this word counterfeit, or how would we best think to spell that? Counterfeit. The last syllable is going to use the AE phonogram that we do not use at the end of English words. So actually, yeah, counterfeit would be the best way to think to spell it. Can you say counterfeit with me? Counterfeit. Good. First syllable. Sound it out with me. K, ow, n. 3 sounds. The ow sound is ow, o, oo, Next syllable, counter, t, We're going to use the of her, just like a countertop. Counter. Next syllable, fate. The sounds are f, a, t. 3 sounds. We'll use AE that we do not use at the end of English words for that syllable. Pick up your pencil, please, and write counterfeit. K, ow, n, syllable break. T, syllable break. A, t, counterfeit. Alina, would you like to mark the word for us?
Yes, please. Okay. First, you underline the R-O-U-S. And then you underline the earlier of her. And then you underline the AE and put a thinking cap.
Perfect.
And that's all.
That's right. Counterfeit is an adjective. Okay. Go ahead and write these in cursive as well. You write each one of these in cursive. Judgment, you only have to write once. Judgment. Accurate. Remember, I'm doing judgment with an E after the G, but if you spelled it without it, it would be fine. Accurate, accuracy, and counterfeit. Okay, let me know when you're done, boys and girls. And that's actually all of the cursive review we're going to do because we need to get started on well-ordered language next with a new chapter. I want to get right to that. Okay, show me your cursive words, please, if you are finished. Great job. Marcus, can you write the words in cursive, please? Emma, are you still writing? Okay, it looks like most of you are done. Excellent work. Our next part of our lesson is going to get to some well-ordered language. Well-ordered language time today is going to be a new chapter. We have only 2 more chapters for the whole book. And it's not really anything even new because we're going to get into compound verbs in this chapter and compound direct objects in the last chapter. But if you already know what conjunctions are, then you already know how to mark all of these. So compound verbs is what we're going to get into today. We are going to review some verb jingles especially and conjunction jingles. And we're going to learn a new jingle, the last jingle in the book, on synonyms, antonyms, and homonyms. That's what we'll focus on also in this chapter. Okay, could you turn to page 153 and we have some songs there that we're going to review.
Can we go to the back of the book?
What's that, sweetie?
Could we go to the back of the book?
Or you can go to the back of the book. It's just all in order on page 153, whereas in the back of the book, you'll have to flip around a little bit because we're going to start with the song Verbs and Helping Verbs. You guys remember this one?
A verb is a part of speech. A verb
verb shows action or a state of being.
A verb shows action or a state of being.
A verb is a part of speech.
A verb is a part of speech.
A verb shows action or a state of being.
A verb shows action or a state of being.
A helping verb helps another verb to express its meaning. A helping verb stands near the verb. It is called an auxiliary. And, is, are, was, were, be, being, been, has, have, had, do, does, did, may, might, must, should, could, would, shall, will, and can. A helping verb stands near the verb and is called an auxiliary. Yes, a helping verb stands near the verb. It is called an auxiliary. Mr. Bones was my helper, my auxiliary. So, we are going to be learning about compound verbs today. All right, you can stick on page 153 for now, but reading from page 151, just to you guys. Now, when you think of a thunderstorm, flashes of lightning, which happened last night, and booms of thunder are probably the first things that come to your mind. Did you know that lightning and thunder actually happen at the same time? You should know that because we talked about that in science, right? We see the light before we hear the thunder. Is that right? Because what? Why is that the case? Just a little science review. Arianj, do you remember? Arianj left the meeting. Oh, goodness. Emma, do you remember why that happens?
Because light goes faster than sound.
That's right. Light travels faster than sound. So we see the lightning before we hear the thunder, even though it is the same thing. Now, a bolt of lightning, which is more than 40,000 degrees Fahrenheit, heats all of the air around it, causing the air to expand quickly. Thunder is the result of the rapid expanding and contracting of the atmosphere that's caused by the bolt of lightning. The two events happen at the same time, but light travels faster than sound, so we see the lightning before we hear the thunder. In an English sentence, when one thing, a subject, does two or more actions, which means it has two verbs, those actions are called a compound verb. Now, we've heard about sentences with a predicate verb and a helper verb that comes alongside it. This is not what it's talking about. What we're talking about here is two predicate verbs. Okay? Like flashes and booms, right? Going back to lightning and thunder. Those are two different actions. It's not an action with a helper. It's two separate actions. Okay, now let's take a look at a little story called How the Whale Got His Throat on page 152. Could I have a volunteer read that one that starts with, "So the whale swam and swam"? Samhita, would you read that one for us?
So the whale swam and swam to latitude 50 north, longitude 40 west, as fast as he could swim, and on a raft in the middle of the sea, with nothing to wear except a pair of blue canvas breeches, a pair of suspenders, You must practically remember the suspender's best beloved, and a jackknife he found in one single. Solitary shipwrecked mariner trailing his toes in the water.
So it says Kipling doubles his verbs and uses long sentences to demonstrate the great distance the whale swam. He swam and swam. They also show an emphasis on the prepositions. On a raft, in the middle of the sea, with nothing. So lots of prepositional phrases. He found one single solitary shipwrecked mariner trailing his toes in the water. So lots of extra predicate verbs. But in this first one they're talking about, it says he didn't just swim, he swam and swam. Kipling's compound verb is unusual because it's the same word repeated. Compound verbs are often two different verbs or even more than two verbs. In the sentence, the whales swam, dove, and fished. The subject is whales, and three verbs, swam, dove, and fish, connected by a conjunction, form the compound verb. Just as in any other sentence, subjects and compound verbs must agree in number. A whale swims and swims, but whales swim and swim. So we need to have a verb that makes sense with the subject, right? We wouldn't say, Harika swim and swim. We would say, Harika swims and swims, or Harika swims and plays. That's a compound verb. We could say, Dikshita reads and relaxes. Rishith, he sits and he enjoys, like talks with his friends. So different verbs connected to the same subject, connected by a conjunction. So let's go ahead and review that conjunction song as well. Can you all sing this one with me?
A conjunction is a part of speech. It joins elements of the same rank or name. When two or more words are joined this way, they're called compounds. A conjunction is a part of speech. It joins elements of the same rank or name. When two or more words are joined this way, they're called compounds.
So, joins elements of the same rank or name means that a conjunction can join subjects. But in our chapter today, we're going to be hearing about joining two verbs, two predicate verbs. Okay, now finally, before we go over what our new analysis is, let's do this synonyms, antonyms, and homonym song, because we're going to talk quite a bit about synonyms, antonyms, and homonyms in this chapter. Do you all see that on page 153? This is a catchy one, I like it.
Synonyms, antonyms, and homonyms. Synonyms are words that mean almost the same thing. Antonyms are words that have the opposite meaning of another word.
Homonyms are words that sound the same but have different meaning and sometimes spelling.
Words that sound the same but do not mean the same thing. Synonyms, antonyms, and homonyms.
Synonyms.
Little and small. Antonyms.
Short and tall.
Tall.
Homonym. Through the ball
whale walked through the mall.
Synonyms, antonyms, and homonyms. Synonyms, antonyms, and homonyms.
You guys like that one? Okay, I want you all to stand up and do this one with me, and we've got some good actions for it. So I want you to really dance along, act along. Come on, everybody, stand up. Stand up, Aryansh. Alina, get out of bed. Come on, Rishith. Let's try this one again. Marcus, stand up.
Synonyms, antonyms, and homonyms. Synonyms are words that mean almost the same thing. Antonyms are words that have the opposite meaning of another word. Homonyms are words that sound the same but have different meaning and sometimes spelling. Words that sound the same but do not mean the same thing. Synonyms, antonyms, and homonyms. Synonyms.
Little and small. Antonyms. Short and tall.
Homonyms.
Walk through the mall.
Synonyms, antonyms, and homonyms. Synonyms, antonyms, and homonyms.
Whoa, love the dancing. Dikshita, Alexander, Samhita, Alina, Sahanasri, lots of good dancing out there. Okay, so that's what we'll be seeing quite a bit of in this chapter as well. Now, let's just really quickly go through our new way of analyzing these sentences with compound verbs. I'm going to turn to page 154. I'd love for you to do the same. Page 154. Okay, you guys see this one? The whale swam and splashed water. Okay, could I have a volunteer go through what words we would say about this sentence? Alexander, I'll have you go ahead and do that. And the part in parentheses, skip over that, don't say that.
So starting
Starting with A.
first, read sentence aloud. The whale swam.
Oh.
Wait.
Good. Don't read the part in parentheses.
Yeah. Cole response. Yes, sir.
So
Sense and is.
read all of
is
the things that are in the gray font. Don't read the things in parentheses. Okay?
Okay. Well, the whale swam and splashed water. Are they any conjunctions?
I'll act like the class and
The
say,
order of analysis.
yes, sir.
Okay.
So if we were in
The
class,
order.
you know what, Alexander, I'll have you stop for a
Okay.
moment and I'll lead the class and then I'll have you do it instead. Okay? After I do it once.
Mhm.
Okay, boys and girls, say this with me. The whale swam and splashed water. Are there any conjunctions? Do you see any conjunctions, boys and girls? If so, say yes, ma'am. Not sir, since I'm not a sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dikshita. Now,
Yes.
Dikshita, what's the conjunction?
Yes, ma'am. And.
Good. And is the conjunction, so we put wings around it. Now, say this with me. The order of analysis is phrases, clauses, principal elements, modifiers. Can you say that with me? The order of analysis is phrases, clauses, principal elements, and modifiers. Are there any prepositional phrases? Do you see any prepositional phrases in the sentence? Nope.
Nope.
So you could say, no, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
This is a sentence
No,
and
ma'am.
it is declarative. Thank you for the respectful responses. Now, this sentence is about what? What is this sentence about? Josiah?
Whale.
A whale, that's right. So whale is the subject because it is what the sentence is about. This sentence tells us that whale swam and splashed. So swam and splashed are the predicates because they are what the sentence tells us about whale. Does that make sense? Both swam and splashed are what this whale are doing. They are predicate verbs because they show action. There's no linking verb because predicate verbs do not need linking verbs. Now we say, and is the conjunction. Now water tells us what whale swam and splashed. Even though it's really not saying the whale swam water, but it is saying he splashed water. Water is an objective element because it completes the meaning of an action verb. It is a direct object because it tells what whale swam and splashed. So we make it a DO. And the is an adjective. From now on, we can just say that. We don't have to say it is an adjective element because it modifies a noun. We can just say the is an adjective. Okay. Alexander, can you try saying all of that? And then that'll be all for today. Read everything that's not in parentheses.
So starting with the whale.
Yes.
The whale swam and splashed water. Were there any conjunctions?
No.
The order of analysis is phrases, clauses, principal elements, and modifiers. Are they any prepositions? This is a sentence, and it is
Declarative.
this sentence is about a whale. So whale is the subject because it is the sentence is about. The sentence tells us that whale because they're
Whale swam and splashed.
what the sentence tells us about. They are Wait,
They are
where
predicate
we?
verbs.
Huh? No. Oh, yeah. They're predicate verbs because they show action. There is no linking verb because verbs do not need linking verbs. And is a conjunction. Water tells us what whales swam and splashed in. So water is a subject element because it completes the meaning of verb. It whale swam and splashed. This is an adjective.
The is an adjective. Good. So that would be the whole
The
order of
is
analysis. Sorry, it seems like the connection's kind of lagging. But thank you so much, Alexander. Okay, boys and girls, that's what we're going to be doing with our next chapter. And as you might guess, In our last chapter on compound direct objects, it's just about the same. It's just that we have two direct objects instead of two verbs or subjects. Okay, I think you guys are going to find this unit pretty simple. Just one subject doing two verbs. Let's put away our workbooks for now and take out our orthography notebooks. And let's say our poem, The Hay Loft, together, which I think that today was when I said it was going to be due on Bright Thinker. So please recite your poem, The Hay Loft, and record it, put it on Bright Thinker, because tomorrow we're going to, we usually don't midway through a week, start a new poem, but we've got a poem that we're going to be learning all about Earth Day, which is next Thursday. So I want to have plenty of time for us to do that one. Earth Day is when we have an appreciation of the earth.
My brother's birthday is on next Saturday.
What's that?
My brother's next birthday is on Saturday.
Oh, just 2 days after Earth Day. That's great. So Earth Day is when we think through, you know, what the earth gives us. What are some natural resources? How can we take better care of the planet by reducing, reusing, recycling? And we've got a special poem that celebrates our earth. So we'll start learning that tomorrow so that we've got plenty of time to learn it before Earth Day. It's a really good one. Okay, time for us to move on to orthography though. Can you take out your notebooks and say our poem as we take our notebooks out? The Hay Loft, which once again, you'll put on Bright Thinker today. The Hay Loft by Robert Louis Stevenson. Through all the pleasant meadowside, the grass grew shoulder high, till the shining sides went far and wide, and cut it down to dry. Those green and sweetly smelling crops, they led the wagons home, and piled them here in mountain tops for mountaineers to roam. Here is Mount Clear, Mount Rusty Nail, Mount Eagle, and Mount High. The mice that in these mountains dwell no happier are than I. Oh, what a joy to clamber there. Oh, what a place for play. With the dim, the sweet, the dusty air, the happy hills of hay. The Hay Loft by Robert Louis Stevenson. Actually, I think I got that last part off. I think it's the sweet, the dim, the dusty air. Is that it? I think so. The sweet, the dim, the dusty air, the happy hills of hay. Okay, we are doing lesson 97 today. The first word was judgment. I'm going to spell it this way. And then we'll do accurate. Accurate. Accuracy. And last one was counterfeit. You write all of those for lesson 97. Great job, Dikshita. Let me know when you're done with the 4 words on page 62, and then we're going to sort in a couple spots. I want us to first turn to page 6. And we're going to write judge for the J, 3-letter J line. Judgment. On page 6. Let's also go to page 4. And let's do counterfeit on the first ow, o, oo, line. Page 4. Counterfeit. It's going to be tight to fit it, but counterfeit. Okay, and we'll leave it at that, just those 2. Okay, put your notebooks away, and let's get our math out. By the way, by today, I want you to finish doing your root cards on your own. It's a Bright Thinker assignment to independently make those root cards, and then tomorrow we'll review them, okay? So it should have a due date of today on Bright Thinker. Let's take our math out, though. Did anybody have questions about their math homework from yesterday before we start our new pages? Our new lesson? Any questions? This one I think should have been a pretty easy one because you can just visually see which one looks bigger, right? Today we're going to talk about how to compare fractions when you don't have a picture, because we'll have to actually change the fraction to something equivalent and then compare. So that's going to take a little bit more time. We'll actually do some of these math workbook pages together, and some you'll do on your own. Okay? So if there's no questions, we'll put the math workbook to the side for now. We are going to do some of the pages all together for practice. We're going to put that to the side for now. And if you would open up your math notebook, let's put our header at the top. And this is math lesson 14.4 still. This is just day 2 of it. I know this is jumping right into math from literacy time. Feel free to get some water if you need it. Okay, before we start a new, some new information in our math notebook, can anybody tell me, just a little review from yesterday, what we do when we compare like fractions, which means they have the same denominator? How can we compare them? Aryansh?
We look at the top number
If the top
Excellent.
number, if the top number is if the top number is very high, then that means it's probably greater than a number that's very low.
Exactly. We look at the top number, or the numerator, and whichever one has a higher numerator, it's the bigger fraction. Because the denominator is the same. So it's kind of like this, where we have something in 8 parts. So the one with the most parts, that's a bigger fraction. Now, unlike fractions are ones with a different denominator. If we have unlike fractions with the same numerator, like 2/10 and 2/7, how can we quickly compare them? Rishith, do you remember? If we have unlike fractions like this, one is tenths, one is sevenths, but the numerator is the same, how can we quickly compare them?
Whichever bar looks bigger.
Very good. Like this 2/7, each little part is bigger, right? These 2/7 are bigger than 2/10. Aryansh, could you tell us what quick way we can always compare those fractions?
A quick way to compare those fractions is to look at the bottom number. If the bottom number is a very high number, that means it's just cut up in small pieces. And 2 of those lots of pieces is too small. But rather than a number like 7, it's going to be bigger than, because 7 is less than 10. 10 is bigger than 7. So 2/10 is less than 2/7.
Very well said, Aryansh. Boys and girls, did you hear what he said for that? When it's cut up into more pieces, that means each piece is smaller, right? So 2/10 of something is smaller than 2/7 of something. We look at the denominator, and the bigger number means actually a smaller fraction if the numerator is the same. Okay? They both have 2 pieces. 2/10 is going to be smaller because each of those little tenths is a smaller fraction. Now today we're going to talk about what happens when we have unlike fractions where the numerator and denominator are different. Okay? So we saw some good shortcuts for if the numerator is the same or the denominator is the same. Now we're going to look at if they're different. Dikshita, could you read this story problem for us?
Pie A and pie B are vegetarian pies of the same size. Miss Jones cut 3/4 of pie A for Sue. She cut 7/8 of the pie B for Tim. Who got a larger piece? Who got the smaller piece?
Good. And the little thought bubbles here are good. It says, remember, you can only compare fractions from the same whole or equal-sized wholes. 3/4 and 7/8 are unlike fractions with different numerators. Right, 3/4 and 7/8 are the ones being compared. The denominators are different and the numerators are different. But can you already tell which one's bigger, 3/4 or 7/8? Which one's bigger? Did Sue or Tim eat more pizza? Emma? Which one's bigger? Pi A for Sue or pi B for Tim?
Pi B.
Good. Pi B is bigger. Now, we can use multiplication to rewrite unlike fractions as like fractions. First, we find an equivalent fraction of 3/4. This is going to put into practice that equivalent fraction lesson we did recently. You guys remember that we can make 3/4 an equivalent fraction by multiplying both the numerator and denominator by the same number. You guys remember that? Or we can find any equivalent fraction by multiplying the numerator and denominator by the same number. In this case, we're multiplying by 2, and 3/4 becomes 6/8. Basically, it now looks like this. This is 3/4 of a pizza, just like this. But now we cut it into more slices, so it's 6/8. Can you picture doing that to your own pizza? If you had 3/4 of a pizza, but then you cut up each piece into smaller pieces. I'm sorry, boys and girls, I don't know why that's changing. Can you see it now? Okay, here's 3/4 of a pizza, but if we were to cut each one in half, now it's the same amount of pizza, but we would call that 6/8. And we can more easily compare those two fractions now, 6/8 and 7/8. Which one's bigger, 6/8 or 7/8? Arshab?
Oh, 6/8.
6/8 is actually smaller than 7/8 because the numerator is smaller. Do you see that? So remember that with like fractions, when the denominator is the same, whatever is the bigger numerator is the bigger fraction. All right, hopefully this becomes more and more clear as we continue doing more of it. Let's do an example in your notebook now. Okay? We're going to compare one half and 4/10. Okay, compare 1/2 and 4/10. Marcus, do you have your pencil ready to go? Perfect. Okay. Now, first I could ask myself, can I make 4/10 an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 2? And no, I actually can't, because I could, if I divided 10 by 5, that would get me to 2. But can I divide 4 by 5? No. But could I make 1/2 an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 10? Could I cut something that looks like, let's make them kind of similar bars like this. 1/2 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 4/10. Can I cut the 1/2 into more pieces? Into 10 pieces instead? Yeah. So I'm going to change 1/2 to an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 10. Okay, do you guys remember for this that we were basically thinking, I'm going to multiply 2 times something to equal 10. Now, what number are we going to multiply 2 times to get 10? Alexander?
Ashley was raising my hand for, 5.
But 5 is correct. Good job. We're going to multiply 2 times 5 to get 10. Oh, I see. Okay, now let's have Sahanasri help with this one. Now, Sahanasri, if I multiply 2 times 5 to get 10, what do I need to do to the top?
1 times 5.
Perfect. I always have to multiply by the same number on the top too. So what's 1 times 5, Sahanasri?
5.
Good, 5. So that means that our equivalent fraction is 5/10, meaning 1/2 is the same as 5/10. Does that make sense, everybody? I know this is a lot. We can slow down this unit a little bit if needed. This is still pretty new, but you guys are doing a great job persevering. Okay, now that we have 5/10, we're going to compare it to 4/10. Is 5/10 greater or is 4/10 greater? You guys remember how to compare fractions with the same denominator? How do we compare these like fractions? Arshad?
How do you compare them?
Mm-hmm. If I have a pizza cut up into 10 pieces, is 5 of them bigger or 4?
5.
Good. 5 slices of the same size pizza is more. So we're going to put the greater than symbol. 5/10 is greater than 4/10. Good job, Alexander. Which also means that 1/2, so I'm going to put or, 1/2 is greater than 4/10. Now, the reason I know 1/2 is greater is because 1/2 and 5/10 are the same. Does that make sense? 1/2 and 5/10 are equivalent. So if 5/10 is greater than 4/10, that also means 1/2 is greater than 4/10. Yes, Alexander?
What helps me remember what's bigger is I pretend that greater than sign is like a crocodile that always eats a bigger number because it's always hungry.
It's hungry. It wants to eat lots of numbers.
We learned that trick in 2nd grade.
That's perfect.
Me too.
Yeah, you can make it into little teeth if you want even. He's hungry. Okay, let's try something like this, but instead of with multiplication, we're going to use that division strategy to make it smaller. Let's compare 3/12 and 2/4. Now we could make the fourths bigger, find an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 12, but let's instead make this 3/12 into fourths. Ariansh?
Can you please lower the
Yes.
what you're writing because we can't see. Okay, now we can see.
Okay. 3/12. Let's find an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 4. This one we can reduce down. I will say though, when in doubt, always you can go up. Because you can always make a fraction bigger. You can't always reduce it down. So if you're confused by this at all, just do the multiplication 1 instead to make the smaller fraction actually a bigger number for a denominator, okay? But you will need to do some like this in your workbook. So we'll go ahead and put it into practice. Now, 3/12 equals blank fourths. Now, what do we divide 12 by to get 4? Show me with your fingers. 12 divided by what equals 4? 12 divided by 3 equals 4. So what does that mean? We need to divide the numerator by. If we divided 12 by 3 to get 4, what do we need to do to the top? Dikshita?
You have to divide the numerator.
Also by the same number, right? 3 divided by 3. What is 3 divided by 3, Dikshita?
1.
Good. So now 1/4 is the equivalent fraction. Can we compare 1/4 and 2/4? They're like fractions. We can compare like fractions. 1/4 and 2/4. Which one's bigger? If you had 1/4 of a pizza, or you had another option of 2/4 of a pizza, which one is more pizza? 1/4 of the pizza or 2/4 of a pizza? Tig?
The answer to that would be 1/4. No, 2/4.
Thank you. Very good. 2/4 is bigger. Remember that when the denominator is the same, the numerator is just going to determine the bigger the numerator, the bigger the fraction. Okay. These are like fractions, the same denominator. So just choose the bigger number as the greater fraction. The bigger numerator means a greater fraction. Okay, now one last thing to write about in our notes is what we call benchmarks. Okay. Now in this, it says, which is greater, 3/4 or 1/6? Now you'll have to actually change both of them to 12ths to compare them evenly. But another thing you can do that's pretty practical is this. Think of this like it's on a number line and compare it with a benchmark of 1/2. That's what we're going to use for our benchmark, which means basically it's like this visual in your mind of 1/2 on the number line. Well, I know 3/4 is bigger than 1/2, and 1/6 is smaller than 1/2. So without converting these, without finding equivalent fractions, I can just know that 3/4 is bigger than 1/6 because it's more than 1/2. And this one is less than 1/2. Does that make sense? Right? If you know one is bigger than 1/2, and then you know another one is smaller than 1/2, then that can help you compare. So it will be good for you to start to not memorize, but get really familiar with equivalent fractions. 2/4 is equivalent to 1/2. 3/6 is equivalent to 1/2. So 1/6 is smaller than 1/2. 3/4 is bigger than 1/2. Okay? Want us to get started on our math workbook now because there are some things I want you to do for practice. So we'll actually not do anything else in our math notebook. And at this time, we're going to open up to page 103. 103. Okay, let me know when you're there. We're going to use this example to help us. It says 3/4 and 7/8. Now 3/4 equals blank eighths. It already tells you we're going to change it to eighths. And if I know 4 times 2 is 8, then we also need to multiply by 2 at the top. 3 times 2 is 6. So now we can compare 6/8 as the same as 3/4, and 7 is bigger. It would be fine if you wrote 6/8 instead of that, though. 7/8 is greater than 6/8. Now we've got these two fractions to compare. 7/9 and 2/3. Now we're going to change 2/3. What do you think we'll change it to? We want it to be the same denominator as the other one. So how are we going to change it? What equivalent fraction do we need to find? Samhita? I don't know if there's connection issues or if you guys just don't want to. Oh, here's Samhita. Samhita, could you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Oh boy. What was the question again?
Okay. For this one, we're going to change 2/3 to an equivalent fraction, and we want it to be a like fraction with 7/9. Can you tell us how we're going to do that?
We have to multiply it by 3 because 3 times 3 equals 9. So then 2 times 3 equals 6. And then 3 times 3 equals 9. So it's 6/9.
Great job. Now that we know one is 6/9, can we compare these two?
Yep.
So which one's bigger?
7/9.
Good. 7/9 is greater than 6/9, but I'm going to write 2/3 since that's the equivalent fraction that we're supposed to compare. 7/9 is bigger than 2/3 since 6/9 is equivalent. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Boys and girls?
Miss Gardner?
Miss Arianch?
I think you need to flip the 2/3 and 7/9 because now it's saying
Oh,
that,
thank you very
2/3
much. You are
greater
exactly
than
right.
7. It's not true.
You're
7/9
exactly
is
right.
supposed to be bigger.
Thank you so much for saying that. I think I was looking at this one where the greater than sign was pointing to the left. Good call. Good catch. Okay, now for this next part, both of these actually have to change. So I'll help you get started with this. Now 4/5 and 1/2. We can't change 4/5 to an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 2, and 2 can't change to 5. The reason I know that is because 5, we can't divide anything. We can't divide 5 by anything to get 2, and we can't multiply 2 times something to get 5. Okay? But I can think of a different fraction altogether. Can you think of a number that we could multiply by 5 and 2 to get 5 times something and 2 times something? Alexander?
Mm, 2 times 10?
Good. Let's change it to a new fraction with a denominator of 10 for both of these.
I just thought 2 times 5 and 5 times 2.
Good. Yeah, 2 times 5 is 10. So that means we can change both of these to a new fraction with a denominator of 10. Now 5 times 2 is 10, which means we're also going to multiply the top by 2. 2 times 5 is 10, which means we're also going to multiply the top by 5. Can you all find the equivalent fractions and then we'll compare them? Give me a thumbs up once you're done with that. Harika? Can you share your answer? Harika, can you share your answer? Harika, would you please unmute yourself?
Okay, there. It was actually not letting me for a few seconds.
Could you tell us what the equivalent fraction to 4/5 is?
It is. Wait, which page is it?
103. Harika, you were supposed to be on that page to begin with. Can you tell me what 4 times 2 equals?
4 times 2 equals 8.
Perfect. Now, Emma, what's the equivalent fraction to 1/2 over here?
It was 5.
Good. The numerator is 5. Can we compare these two now? 8/10 and 5/10? Marcus, which one's bigger of these two fractions?
Say that again.
Which one's greater, 8/10 or 5/10?
8/10.
Good. So we're going to put that one here, but instead of 8/10, we'll do that fraction 4/5. And instead of 5/10, we'll write 1/2. So 4/5 is greater than 1/2. Okay. For the next one, I'll give you a hint. You can change these to 12ths, or you could change it to 24ths by multiplying 6 times 4. But you could also do 12ths for these to compare, because 6 times 2 is 12 and 4 times 3 is 12. Okay? Now for this other page, page 105, you're going to do on your own. It gives you a number line. So this is going to hopefully really help you to see For example, 4/6, 4/6 and 1/2. You can see on that number line which one's greater. Okay? This page I imagined would be the hardest, so I wanted to spend some time on this. Any questions about this before we go? Yes, Aryansh? And then I'll get to Dikshita and Alexander.
So after this unit, what's going to be next?
I think that we'll do this bar graph unit, which we also skipped over. Bar graphs are super fun. I think you guys are going to like that.
Can we did some
Yes.
bar graphs in second grade?
Dikshita?
My question is, I have to leave early tomorrow and Friday.
Tomorrow and Friday. Okay, that should be fine. You don't have reading groups on those days, and yeah, you might miss some of the math, but if needed, you can just watch the video later. Alexander?
I've got a question and an answer.